What's good, streaming people? I had mentioned we are here at the Super Bowl, and we are getting you ready for the big game. I'm Tommy Tran, and we're also here with our handicappers to get us ready for the game, Todd Fuhrman and the Wizard of Odds, Kenny White. Guys, great to be with you, and you guys are going to be with us throughout the day, also live betting the game, but that's still just a few hours away. So before we talk about the spread itself, which is one of the tightest ones that we've had in recent history, let me just give you the last three Super Bowls that we've had here in the Glendale, Arizona, and Tempe area, right? So we had Super Bowl 49. Pats cover the one against Seattle. Super Bowl 42, we know the Giants catching 12 against the Patriots, and we know how that went. And then in Super Bowl 30 out in Tempe, Sun Devil Stadium, the Cowboys were laying 13.5, but they only won by 10 against the Steelers at that. I mentioned the tight spread here. You guys are both on the same side in terms of that short number. But, Kenny, I'm going to start with you because you don't want a little bit of extra protection. You're taking money line Chiefs here plus $1.05.
Yeah, happy Super Bowl Sunday, Tommy. And I've been rehearsing all week for this today.
No, you haven't.
And I'm going with the Chiefs. I'm not changing my mind. I'm trusting my numbers in the process. I thought the Chiefs should be a short favorite. I made them 2.5. And I feel very good about it with Patrick Mahomes, who's an elite quarterback. He is a once-in-a-generation guy. He's won a Super Bowl already, third Super Bowl in 4 years, and Andy Reid. And both those guys together are really an unbeatable combination.
Todd, why are you also on the same side, but you're getting the plus 1.5?
Yeah, for me, I'm going to take the plus 1.5. I actually think, Tommy, when we continue to have this discussion throughout the day, it could move to a plus 1 or even pick 'em. So I understand where Kenny's coming from, grabbing them on the money line. But you look at this Chiefs team, and I think all of the discussion is about Patrick Mahomes, and rightfully so. But the reality of it is, this is a defense that's really found its groove over the last 7 games. You look at their yards per play numbers against, the yards per pass attempt against. Steve Spagnuolo has a very young defense with a ton of rookies out there playing to their best of their abilities. And the one thing we've seen from Kansas City is they're built to play with a lead. Chris Jones, Frank Clark, George Karlaftis, all of these guys are more than capable of disrupting a game, creating that momentum play. But, Kenny, you talked about it. A once-in-a-generation quarterback in Patrick Mahomes. He learned from the last time he was here when he wasn't healthy. He was constantly under duress against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think this is the spot where Patrick Mahomes gets that elusive second Super Bowl before he even comes close to turning 30.
It's interesting that both of our pros and handicappers are on the Kansas City side. The betting splits at Caesars Sportsbook have 7 out of every 10 bets on Philadelphia. And after that initial move, guys, we have seen it pretty much flat the entire 2-week period. If I were then now to switch over to top player prop, Kenny White, you're going to be going with Jalen Hurts under 240.5 passing yards tonight.
Yeah, I didn't mention that in my analysis of liking the Chiefs. An elite quarterback on one side against a quarterback with a bad shoulder. It's proven out. He sat 2 games out because of the shoulder. Was forced back into action in Week 18. The Eagles had a must-win situation and didn't have to throw the ball a lot, and that's because they know the shoulder's not 100%. Last 13 passes in 3 games, 13 passes over 20 yards. He's only completed 4. One of those was Devonta Smith. That was really not a completion. He was 3 for 13. So I'm going under. And Todd mentioned that the Chief defense has also stepped up. And this isn't just another game. It's a Super Bowl. The jitters are for real.
All right. And Todd, you don't have 4 digits on your prop. It's actually just 2, 7.5. Where are we going here?
Yeah, and this is a prop, obviously, that you're never going to feel extremely comfortable with until the game hits 0-0. And that's Jerick McKinnon under 7.5 yards on his longest rushing attempt in this spot. You look at McKinnon's usage over the last 5 games. He's toted the rock 24 times for a grand total of 43 yards. And where McKinnon adds value for what Kansas City wants to do is as a receiver in the short passing game. I don't see him being a bell cow back carrying the ball more than 4 or 5 times max. He did a little bit of too much dancing in the backfield against the Cincinnati Bengals, and you saw Isaiah Pacheco take on a bigger role. We're not quite sure how Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to factor into this game plan either, and I just don't see McKinnon turning one of his short carries into a big rush. McKinney knows as well as anybody, if it's 3rd and 17, I'm going to be sweating bullets that they're not calling draw so Philadelphia can get off the field with a prevent defense.
All right, so both you guys going under in terms of your top prop for Super Bowl 57. Let's move now to scoring first touchdown, your pick here. And I'm going to go with the guy that's picked a little bit longer odds, and that's going to be you, Toddy, there. Kadarius Toney at 12-1.
Yeah, and when I look at Kadarius Toney, I mean, he was targeted early on against the Cincinnati Bengals and probably should have caught the ball in the corner of the end zone. Unfortunately for Kadarius Toney, that ended his day a lot earlier than he would have anticipated. But he becomes that utility knife that Kansas City has leaned on in the past. A guy that can run the football, a guy that can turn a short gain into a bigger play, or a guy that can be lined up in the backfield and maybe get a nice wheel route. So I think the price as much as anything is why I landed there. I know it's a game where we're talking about the star-studded capabilities on both the Kansas City side and Philadelphia, but for me, I'm willing to roll the dice on a player the Eagles know well from their games against the Giants, Kadarius Toney at 12-1.
What a great pickup, too. Toney was a great addition to the Chiefs team, his speed and explosiveness. I'll go with, basically, I think the favorite, the best tight end in maybe all time in the NFL, and that's Kelce. And Travis Kelce, 11 touchdowns in 17 playoff games. I think he's going to be the target down low. They get inside the 10, and Mahomes is going to find his favorite receiver, and it's Travis Kelce. And I've got him over 2 touchdowns for the game, so I got to get him to score that first touchdown.
Yeah, you get that there at plus
Tough to get
more
two
than
if he
5
doesn't
to
get
1.
The first one, yeah.
Plus 525 there at Caesars Sportsbook. And as we wrap up this first segment, gentlemen, let's talk about MVP. And, Todd, we're taking a look at the Philadelphia Eagles. I think the narrative is, at least on the Philly side, there's more options than just Jalen Hurts to come away with it. So where are you going here?
And that's the one thing. I know I've advocated all week for the Chiefs. I'm on the same side as Kenny, so I don't want to conflate the two topics here. I'm not going to pick a player from a losing roster to be only the second Super Bowl MVP in 57 iterations of this great game. But you have to look at all of these markets independently. And for me, when the Kansas City Chiefs, if they do win the game, it's all about Patrick Mahomes. For Philadelphia, we're not quite sure which player could step up in this particular spot. And I don't think it's a one-to-one mapping that a Philadelphia win correlates to Jalen Hurts going absolutely nuclear in terms of dodging the stat sheet. So for me, I look at Miles Sanders. I think this is a game where he's going to get ample carries in the third and fourth quarter, something that we haven't seen through the first 2 playoff games. And you look at the snap share. It hasn't been Kenneth Gainwell and Boston Scott when this team has been embroiled in tight football games late. So if Sanders happens to get to 85 or 90 rushing yards with a pair of touchdowns, there's a path for him at 25-1. And again, Tommy, we talk about this regularly. It's all about the number. I'm not betting Miles Sanders if he's 6 or 7-1, but at 25, I'm willing to take a shot.
All right, and Todd had mentioned, Kenny, about if the path for Kansas City to come through with a victory goes through Patrick Mahomes. And right now, just behind Jalen Hurts, I think Hurts is plus $1.25. You can still get Mahomes rather at plus 130 for you.
Yeah, and I think if you like the Chiefs, instead of maybe betting the money line, bet Patrick Mahomes. If the Chiefs win, the road to victory that's it. He's the elite quarterback. He can do it with his legs as well. So I love the situation with Patrick Mahomes in this game at plus $1.30. I did do a sprinkle. 11 defensive players have actually won the MVP in the Super Bowl, and Chris Jones is the best player in defense at 50-1. I thought he was worth a shot as well, a little sprinkle.
All right, Kenny, Todd, we're just getting started here. Sit tight. We're going to take a quick break, but before we do, we want to remind everybody of what we just talked about here ahead of Super Bowl 57. Both of our guys on Kansas City. Their props there going under. McKinnon longest rush yards at 7.5, and Hurts under 240 and a hook. And let's just wrap it up with the MVP there. You see Miles Sanders, Toddy taking a shot there, 25-1. Kenny going Mahomes plus 130. Again, maybe consider Mahomes instead of the money line and get yourself an extra 25 cents.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.